Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at what nobody tells us about aging. And the most important thing they don't tell us about aging is that most of us work our life up to retirement age at 65 here in America, and we usually die within about 10 years, and those last 10 years are going to be absolutely miserable. Most people have no quality of life at all once we get older. And what do our so-called experts tell us? There's nothing you can do about it. All old people get sick. Well, that's just not true. So what we're being told is not true, and what they're not telling us is that our life is going to be miserable if we don't change. What they're not telling us is how to prevent all of these things, because it's not how old we are, it's not how many times we go around the sun. It's how we live. It's what we do. It's our actions. It's our thoughts. It's our way of life. It's that knowledge of how to live and knowledge of how to adapt that most of us don't have, and that explains why most of us suffer the very last few years of our life. And I'm here to tell you, my friends, that doesn't have to be. The vast majority of the elderly on this planet are failures at living because knowledge of how to live has been kept from them. There's a very small group of people who control every major sector of human endeavor, and that includes our educational system and our media. And we're bombarded with so much bullshit that we don't know how to live, we don't know how to get out from under control over this small group of people. There are so many areas we've been lied to, it's amazing. And it's virtually impossible to penetrate the amount of references that we have. But it doesn't have to be that way. And we can prove all of this to ourselves. We can, number one, take a solid food vacation and reverse decades of life and feel 10, 20, 30 years younger and look that way also. We don't have to age like everyone else, but keep in mind, most people don't know what we're supposed to look like. Most of us are fat and puffy. Reminds me of the Gerber baby. That big old fat baby. That's not a healthy baby. And what happens when we get older? My dog just ran to the bike. Got these big fat puffy faces. Look how young he looks. There's no wrinkles on his face. Oh my God, they're doing a solid food vacation. They're looking older. Now you can see the wrinkles. We don't know what we're supposed to look like. The lines on our face are supposed to be a reflection of how we lived. You can tell a person's life by looking at their face, as long as it's not too fat and puffy, because you can tell if they're happy or if they're sad. You see these lines reflected on their face. Don't be fooled into thinking that you're looking older because now you can see wrinkles that you couldn't see before. That's part of the illusion. Most people don't know what healthy people look like. And what's interesting when we look at how people age, other things that we're not aware of is the fact that most people's nose changes shape, elongates, and so do the ears. But I find the fact that the nose changes shape is the most interesting of all things, because of all the nose and sinus eruptions most people have. I've been studying movie stars that were child actors, and I look at them when they're babies and now look at them, and my God, their nose has like grown. It's monstrous. It's horrible. So there's several things they're not telling us. When you get older, your ears and nose are going to grow. Your feet are going to get gnarly. Why? Because we die from the feet up. Remember Harry's law of cure? All healing starts from within out, from the head down, and in the reverse order, which symptoms appear. So that means we die from the feet up. And when we go on a healthy regimen, like a solid food vacation or a raw vegan diet, what happens? We lose all that shit that's underneath our skin. And also now you see lines that you didn't see before. And everyone mistakes that as being sick. Just like the little fat baby. You're not supposed to have big, fat, puffy cheeks. That's not how we're supposed to look. So most people just don't know how we're supposed to look, and then no one really tells us what happens when we age. Well, what else happens when we age? Well, for men, oddly enough, we start growing hair on our ears. Weird. I got to shave my ears now. What's up with that? I also got to trim my eyebrows. I'd have the Jay Cordish eyebrows if I didn't actually comb them up and trim them. I don't clip them or shave them, I just clip it. And if I didn't, they'd be like that. And again, it wasn't like that when I was younger. So interesting things happen when we age. Very few people know that because the elderly have been replaced in the family unit. I can remember talking to my good friend Bob Wood, who turned me on to raw food and the personality test. And I asked him about how it was when he grew up, because he was 25 years older than I was. I said, did you grow up with your grandparents inside the house? And they go, yes, that was part of the family unit. We no longer have that. We are missing that wisdom to actually even see that. And of course, now we see our grandparents every now and then, some of us, but we don't get the benefit from them being around the whole time. Things are changing, and it's not for the good. Just like we change. And most of it is usually not for the good. Now, I can live with shaving my ears and trimming my eyebrows. That's not a big deal to me. But what I can't live with is knowing that that if I die and it's my fault. That's what I don't want to accept, or I don't want to be the reason why I die. And yet that's what happens to most of us. Most of us work hard, work hard our whole life, save up a bunch of money, retire when we're 65, have an absolutely miserable life. Half of us, half the people who file for bankruptcy do so for medical purposes or for medical reasons. It's no quality of life at all. So we don't need to fall apart. We can take charge of our life because everything we do affects us, and then those effects accumulate and are going to be reflected in the condition of what we got. And when we look around at the elderly all around this planet in most places, what we got's not a pretty sight. We're doing something wrong. The main thing we're doing wrong is we're not eating the right food. When you look at the people who do live the longest, they're all pretty much doing the same thing, getting 4 or 5 hours of sunshine, 4 and 5 hours of nice mild exercise, walking and gardening, eating a mostly plant-based diet. And if they were all raw vegan, and if everyone was that way, this whole world would transform and be totally different. We wouldn't have the problems that we have now. So it's time to put an end to the madness we have right now. It's time to take responsibility and be the best that we can be. It's time for us not to age like we've been aging, because right now, the way things are going, we've now have the first generation that's not going to live as long as the previous generation. And that's because our food is getting worse. Once again, we can change that. And it begins by each and every one of us being the change that we wish to see. Be an example for everyone. Jump on a solid food vacation and tell everyone about it. Spread the word. We don't need to suffer. The elderly, I still try many times, but most of them just aren't ready. And I'm talking about what we'd call the geezers. And even maybe some of the late baby boomers. I'm still in the baby boomer range, but then so is my brother, and he's borderline. He's 10 years older than I am. And he's definitely borderline at a point where not as receptive to change. It's that generation above my brother and myself that's very reluctant. And darn it, you guys could really wake up the world if you would embrace this, but I understand you're not quite ready yet. I have a feeling you're going to be in the second wave of heroes, but we got to get the trim tabs, the first wave, to take on the mission first. So get out there, hang on, keep on the hero's journey, keep spreading the word. Remember, we got to go upstream to get reconnected. We got to go downstream and do a lot of damage control. And the main thing we have to do is realize we live on an abundant planet. There are certain false beliefs that keep us where we are, and one of them is this false belief in scarcity. Our belief system has been bombarded with so much bullshit, attacking people who are trying to tell us a good message. There are certain stories and messages that we need to learn from people. And we've been lied about those people, so we don't learn that message. And we have to be open-minded and look at every bit of our belief systems that might interfere with us waking up. Now, I realize not all of us are ready to work downstream or even want to entertain that idea. I even did a video on the raw vegan survey. I highly recommend everyone visit that, because I group people into 17 main groups. And most of y'all who embrace raw veganism can't embrace the dark side of our behavior and how that plays a role, and how it's bombarded your brain with bullshit so you can't even accept the truth. And all you do is just parrot the same bullshit that's been put into you. And I won't put up with that bullshit on my channel. We've already been bombarded with that. So when you people come on here and say, oh no, this is what we've been told, I'm gonna delete that crap. We've already had enough of that crap. We gotta look at the other side. Look at the truth. Realize that we've been lied to about how to eat. We've been lied to about the belief in contagion. We've been lied to about the belief in scarcity, that there's not an abundance. We've been convinced that this is a fairy tale, and the hero will come along and save the day. That's not true, my friends. We are the heroes. A hero is someone who can solve a problem no one else can solve. If our problems are self-inflicted, we are the heroes. You guys know that. You're out there doing it. Keep up the great work. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am with the vast majority of the comments on my message board. There's a couple of you guys I'm really getting fed up with. I really am. I can smell a shill a mile away. And if you're not a shill, you're just a useful idiot, and I'm not going to put up with that on this message board. I'm all for putting the truth out there to help us realize we have to work upstream, we have to work downstream. The main thing we have to do downstream is take back control of the money supply. Germany and Japan proved to the world what would happen when they did that. There's a lesson to be learned from that story. And we've been lied to about those events, so we wouldn't learn the lesson. The lesson is, we live on an abundant planet. Forget all the other bullshit. Let's just say everybody did all the bad things. Forget all of that. There's only one lesson that needs to be learned from that. And that is, we live on an abundant planet. We've proven that to ourselves. The people who rule the world don't want us to know that. Quit getting distracted and focus on anything else that doesn't drive home the point that we live on an abundant planet. And that's what matters. So this might almost be more important than actually getting reconnected, because this might be what we need to do to get reconnected. If we don't reach the tipping point, things are never going to change. We've got to work downstream and take back control of the money so it can't be used as a tool to control us. So we then can have an avenue to get this message out. Again, this is why Shelton and Fry focused so much energy on this. They knew the biggest obstacle for health reform and living reform on this planet was not the ignorance, it was the people in control. And what are they doing to us? I don't care who they are. All I care is what they're doing. And to undo what they've done, undo those laws that give them the right to print our money. That's what's important. Who taught us that? Lincoln taught us that. Kennedy taught us that. Germany taught us that. Japan taught us that. And we're fed a bunch of bullshit to keep us from realizing that. That's what's important, and I'm not going to put up with any more of that shit on my channel. When I'm out here trying to help people learn the truth, I don't want to see bullshit. Oh, this is what I was told. We already heard what you've been told. It's bullshit. Total bullshit. And I presented information to you guys to look at the other side, and you don't even look at it, and you come back and put more bullshit in there. I'm going to keep deleting that crap. You got to open up your mind and look at the other side. If you don't, you're a shill or a useful idiot, and yet there's no room on my channel for that. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm very passionate about putting an end to this needless suffering. I understand the main obstacles we have, just like Moses understood the main obstacles. The ignorant masses, the arrogant rulers. I understand what Martin Luther King said when he was about to be murdered. And he knew it with that famous speech, the mountaintop speech. He told his people, look, the people in control, they're going to use an old favorite form of the pharaohs, because that's how long it goes back. And they're going to do the same thing. They know how to keep the slaves enslaved. They get you to fight amongst themselves. So Martin Luther King said, when I'm gone, you guys stay united. Stop fighting amongst yourselves. I want you guys to do that here also. Quit attacking what I'm saying. I'm not going to put up with that shit. It ain't my ego. I'm putting the truth out there. If you can't accept it, move on. I'm not going to allow any counter arguments with this stuff. Research it. Look at the other side. When you do, it's obvious. I've done that. I've done extensive research in this with an open mind, only looking for the truth. And what you're going to find is there's one version, the official version, and then there's the truth. And if you believe the official version, you're a fool. Fool. By definition, you're a fool. You've been tricked. And I know no one wants to be tricked and fooled. And I know it's scary to think of what this message really means. That's part of the problem. And they pointed that out in that great documentary where the 1,500 architects and engineers came out and said the 9/11 official story is total hokum. And we know why people can't accept it. They talked to all these psychiatrists and they all said the same thing. It's scary to realize that psychopaths are running the asylum. But we have to understand our enemy to help defeat it and realize that they're a reflection of us, so it's not really like we have to defeat something. We've got to change. Remember, there's a bell-shaped curve. Saints on one end, psychopaths on the other, they're ruling everything. Got to change the bell, my friend. We got to join the hero's journey and spread the word. Now, one guy specifically, you unsubscribed to me because you didn't like the truth. And you're part of the problem. And then you come back and have the nerve to try to twist everything and put it back on me. I know a shill when I see it, or a useful idiot. You're really close, one or the other. It's hard to tell sometimes. Either one, I'm not going to put up with either one of you guys. Shills are idiots, useful idiots. And the sad thing is the useful idiots are usually good people. They're just naive, they're ignorant. And that describes most of us, right? So I can relate to that. I was a useful idiot most of my life. In fact, I remember looking back in one of my files the other day for something I was going to say yesterday, and I looked at what I was saying back in 2005. I'm going, well, I've learned a lot since then. I fell under the same mistake that most people do and think it's all about the money. In fact, with that saying, quid pro quo, follow the money, right? It's not about the money, it's about the control. Sure, money is the absolute tool of control, but it has nothing to do with making the money as much as it is to make sure the vast majority of us don't have the money. Again, it's all about scarcity. It's a form of neo-feudalism. I even did a video specifically on feudalism. So we got to get educated here. This is a battle. We have to understand our enemy so we can do downstream work. And not everyone is ready for that, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm not insisting everybody runs downstream and does downstream work. We don't need everyone to do that. But what we do need is to have people not attack that effort. And again, there are shills and useful idiots that are going to interfere with that. And I'm going to delete all this stuff. So if you're a useful idiot, don't take offense. Get educated. If you're a shill, go F yourself. And if you're here in front of me, I'd stomp on your face. Yeah, that's how I feel about people who are contributing to other people's suffering. No different than I would come to the defense of somebody beating a dog or anyone else. But when I understand the magnitude of how many people are suffering because of this, I can get a little peeved. Like I'm getting peeved at that dang gnat. And I'm not a violent man. But when it comes to protecting people, that's our duty. That's what we're supposed to do as the true guardians on this planet. And I know instinctively we all know we have to do that. We don't have to use violence to do it. And I was just illustrating a point when I said I'd stomp on your head, because that's just the kind of scum you are. Anybody who is contributing in any way to the status quo of what we got right now, what can I say? It's a sick world, isn't it? Doesn't have to be. We can change all of that. Enough focusing on the negatives. I'm just trying to explain while I'm deleting some of these posts. And I'm going to tell you, I know a con artist when I see it. I know how you twist things. And I also know most people don't know that, so that's what you're counting on. I realize that. That's why I delete the posts. I realize that most people don't see what I see. And you're able to sway people because it's all about the emotion. So what's that Truman's argument? When you can't convince them, confuse them. Well, I ain't going to put up with it here on my website or on my channel, because my channel is all about getting reconnected. My channel is about making a difference on this planet. I don't want any more war. So when we look at past wars, we got to learn what was the lesson from that war. It wasn't that there was a bad man. No. There are a bunch of bad people who turn good people into bad people so that we don't realize what they were doing. They're proving to the world we live on an abundant planet. We have to get that into our brains, because there's too much suffering right now. Don't you guys get it? How can you? Don't run to my bike again, please, girl. There's too much suffering. We got to change. We got to be the change. Time to get excited. It's time to do the first of my 3-step process. And when you do, my friends, I can guarantee you're in for a treat.